It is a privilege to speak to you today.
A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to the second day of this conference. And we are all geared up for another exciting day today for the conference. And first, I would request all the speakers and the moderator to please come over to the dais for this exciting session on Industry 5.0. I would not give any details about it because I was leave it to our moderator. But yes, I'm honored and privileged to give an introduction for our moderator for this session, uh, Dr. Nishad Fatima. So Dr. Nishad is a chief scientist, senior CSIR, Central Leather Research Institute in India, and she's an INEAS alumni. So Nishad holds a BTech degree and MTech and a PhD degree in leather technology from Anna University. She's a gold medalist and a DAD fellow for her research focus, and her research focuses on protein assemblies and ionic liquids for collagen's stabilization, leading to biomaterials development and protective gloves for extreme cold. She has published 133 papers, holds 9 patents, and led multiple funded projects. She was awarded the INSA Medal for Young Scientists, INAI Young Engineers Award, and SERB Women Excellence Award. She's a fellow of the Madras Science Foundation and a young associate of INAE and INEAS. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome Nishad to the floor. Over to you, Nishad. Thank you.
A very, very good morning to one and all present here. This session, Industry 5.0, is a very important session in today's era, simply because it ushers in an era of harmonious synergy between the human ingenuity and advanced machine intelligence. The predecessor to this, the Industry 4.0, it focused on automation and operation efficiency, whereas this one places the human efforts, humanity at its core. And we have very eminent panelists with us. So I'm not going to talk more because it's their pleasant duty. And there are going to be specific pointers, like we are going to have someone who has been in education field talk about how AI and Industry 5.0 is in education, one from the engineering background, and the other who is going to talk about the diversity, especially in the local context. So this is how the session is going to play out, and it gives me immense pleasure to introduce The first speaker, yes, it is Rishamjit. She is a principal scientist at CSIO, Chandigarh. She is also an associate professor at the Academy of Science and Innovative Research, that is the ACSAR. She specializes in artificial intelligence and big data analytics, focusing on modeling social phenomena using agent-based models and natural language processing for social good, particularly in agriculture, nutrition, and food. She is developing large language models tailored for Indian farmers in local languages. She is a member of NASI and INYAS and has received multiple honors, including the IEI Young Engineer Award, the Japanese Government Next Scholarship, and representation at the BRICS Young Scientist Forum. Over to you, Rishamjit. Thank you.
Okay, very good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you for inviting me here. It's a privilege to be among such a great crowd. So today I'm going to talk about Industry 5.0. So maybe before I start talking, I'll just show you one picture. So what you see here on screen is a female operating a drone in rural part of India to perform some agriculture task, like spraying of fertilizers or pesticides. Now this is the essence of Industry 5.0, where we include people along with integration of technologies. It not just um, creates a sustainable livelihood for them, but it is also empowering women. It is teaching them about technology, revolutionizing agriculture, and that's where the Industry 5.0 shines. And this particular picture that I'm showing, these female, they are known as drone didis, like drone as in drone, and didis means sister, which is an Indian government initiative to empower women in the rural part of India to perform agriculture tasks. Now, this human-centric innovation, it holds a particular promise when we talk about multilingual and multicultural societies like ours, like India, maybe Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, where we don't just speak one language, we don't just follow one tradition, one custom, one belief, right? So even our AI should reflect that. Our AI should be inclusive, our AI should be diverse. If I just talk about multilinguality, the linguistic diversity, there are more than 7,000 languages in the world. India only has 22 official languages, hundreds of dialects. So we need AI where, sorry. So we need AI where we can do personalization at scale, be it for agriculture, be it for health, be it for education. And this is where my research group, we work. We work on development of large language models and AI algorithms for the domain of agriculture, food, nutrition. Like we developed large language model for generating agri-advisories for farmers. Now a farmer in rural India, they don't need to communicate in English, right? So we develop algorithms where they can talk in their local languages, where we incorporate the traditional knowledge, the weather data, the ecological data into it, and then give them advisories. So a student in some tribal India shouldn't need to learn English to get access to quality education. So we work on development of multilingual AI tutors and databases to help them out. We develop like food recommendation algorithms which are culturally sensitive. If I want to recommend a person in Tamil Nadu or in some part of India some ingredients which are considering their medical condition, I don't need to recommend them, let's say, eat avocados, right? We need to recommend them something which is local, which is sustainable, something that they prefer to eat and they have grown up eating there. So that's where I think for such kind of personalization, Industry 5.0 shines. Now, in this sort of direction, in considering the multilingual, multicultural diversities, there are many initiatives which are going on. Even in India, there are initiatives like Bhashini, India AI. I know about an African language consortium, Masakane. There is Open Euro LLM model. And such kind of initiatives, they also help us to reduce biases which are in data. So let me show you another picture. Now, I prompted while working with an image generator to show me what a typical Indian house looks like. I think many of you will agree with me that this is not how a typical Indian house looks like. We also live in big and mortar concrete houses and fancy high-rise apartment buildings, right? But our models, they are as good as our data. So even though this image is from a slightly older model, like I did it a while ago, I'm sure the newer models, they have become better. But the point being here, we need data sets which are diverse, data sets that reflects who we are, data sets that reflects which are from different demographic, ethnicities, gender, classes, or maybe caste. And these kind of biases, they become particularly important when we talk about things like healthcare, where there are already traditionally so many existing biases that exist, and AI built on such kind of data sets could only further amplify those biases discriminating against vulnerable communities. Like just few years ago, I got to know that the symptoms for a heart attack, for a cardiovascular attack, for men and women, they could be different. Like generally, I knew it's about like heaviness in chest, pain in the left arm. But the symptoms for women, they are much broader than that. It could be nausea, it could be dizziness. And because of that, the mortality rate among women due to misdiagnosis was much higher as compared to men. Now imagine building AI on such data sets. It's only further going to increase the divide. It's only further going to increase the bias that we have. And our systems, our AI systems, as I was saying, they should be respectful of our culture, and like while development of one of the AI algorithms for moral content filtering, we very first thing that came to the mind, like what is morality, or what really are ethics? Like when we talk about morality, one thing which could be moral for one culture could be completely immoral in another. So how should we even quantify something like that? Now, there was this one project which was by MIT, where they simulated certain scenarios, like a typical trolley problem, but in the case of the autonomous vehicles. There where accident is supposed to happen, you can either save the passengers or the pedestrians, and they did many different scenarios, having younger people, older people, pets, pregnant women, and whom would you like to spare, right? Whom would you like to save? Apparently, the answer depends upon the country you are in. If you are in a country with collectivist sort of a culture, like maybe Japan, India, you would more give preference to saving maybe older people. If you are in a more individualistic kind of a country, you give more preference to sparing more number of people. So the point here being that the policymakers or the manufacturers, they need to be aware of the cultural and the moral preferences for the place for which they are designing the AI. So the AI systems, they are more inclusive. And especially in this age of generative AI, I'm sure most of you must have used that Ghibli Studio, like the Chat GPT Ghibli Studio trend, and generated the images in the Ghibli Studio style. Now, such kind of images, they brought forward a lot of issues like copyright issues. So now the generative AI, it can mimic the style, it can mimic the work of artists, people who have spent their whole lives, and it can just do it in seconds, threatening their livelihood. So it is also the time for us, for the AI community to respond, and time to upgrade the copyright laws, time to think more about what should be made accessible, how do we empower people and not threaten their livelihood for this. And along with that, it also brought one more issue forward, which was about the energy consumption, the sustainability. Now, the data centers around the world, it has been like one report by International Energy Agency suggests that the electricity consumption, it's going to double down by 2030. And the data centers outfitted with AI accelerated chips, they're probably going to consume 4 times more power, and most of them, they'll be based in like America or Europe, and they're going to strain the local grids. But when we talk about sustainable future and we want to bring sustainability using AI, we also need to discuss how AI is also consuming electricity. But thankfully, some of the recent trends where we are talking more about the smaller models, fewer parameters, domain-specific models, they are going to help us, like more computationally efficient models, as well as the hardware. They are going to help us move in that direction. And along with that, we of course need to focus on more clean energy, and then the international alliances like the International Social Alliance. These kind of things are going to help us in that direction. And I feel that the role of countries like India in this revolution of Industry 5.0 and AI, it is very dominant. Not just we can contribute, we can lead with our IT, with our expertise in IT, with our young people, with the resources that we have built, with the digital infrastructure of UPI Aadhaar that we have. I'm just finishing up. So now even the preference of our government to harness the power of AI for social good. So we are building public-private partnership models. We have India AI. We are building our own foundational models given our diversity, our languages. So I'll just say, and I'll end by saying that all of this, it cannot happen in isolation. This needs a lot of cross-border collaboration. We have a lot of dependence on each other. So we need to work together to build a future, to build AI systems for us, which have our shared values, which are inclusive in nature and design. Thank you. That's where I am. I hope I was.
You were on time. Thank you, Rishamjit. You very poignantly brought out the diversity and how it impacts AI. In fact, the pictures which you showed on the biases which we have, I think that sets the tone for the day. And I would also like to point out here that we had one speaker who was supposed to speak on health in AI. But because of some medical emergency, she could not travel. That's Flavia. But nevertheless, we have a recorded video of one of our Gabriela Ramos. She's a former Assistant Director General for Social and Human Sciences at UNESCO and a candidate for the UNESCO Director General. She has given us a recorded 5 minutes video on the same topic, and let's hear her.
It is a privilege to speak to you today at this year's International Conference on Young Scientists, hosted by the Global Young Academy. As we navigate Industry 5.0, we must ask ourselves this critical question. How can artificial intelligence and digital technologies augment human capabilities rather than replace them? This generation of young people is the first to grow up immersed in the digital technology. So you stand at the forefront of this transformation. 75% of young people are online. So it's not only that they are digital consumers, but also creators, researchers, and problem solvers, as we call you, digital natives. But challenges persist. 260 million young people are not in employment, education, or training worldwide. And by 2025, half of the workers will require reskilling, which is not that simple, and 65% of today's primary school students will work in jobs that do not yet exist. So the capacity to anticipate and to be prepared is really what it calls in the current situation. And without action, the digital divide will deepen and inequalities will grow. As young scientists, you have a crucial role in ensuring that AI is developed ethically, inclusively, and in the service of humanity. And at UNESCO, we believe that AI can be a tool for humanity if it is developed responsibly. And that is why in 2021, 193 member states adopted the recommendation on the ethics of AI, the first global framework to ensure AI upholds human rights. The recommendation advocates for integrated AI literacy into education system to prepare young people for the digital age, enhancing freedom of expression and protecting academic and scientific freedoms, which are under threat in the current geopolitical situation. It also calls for member states to ensure that AI systems related to health, particularly mental health, are regulated to be safe, effective, and evidence-based, while enabling scientific and medical innovation. We are now working with over 70 countries to implement through the readiness assessment methodology, which help nations align AI policies with the ethical principles while achieving tangible, youth-centered outcomes. And I give you some examples. In the Dominican Republic, these assessments are supporting efforts to promote women in STEM, ensuring AI development benefits from diverse perspectives. In Kenya, the focus is on establishing research and innovation hubs in universities, providing young scientists with opportunities to lead AI advancements. In Chile, our friends are revising its school curricula to integrate AI ethics, preparing the next generation to engage with AI responsibly. To further support young people, UNESCO has developed an AI competency frameworks for students and teachers launched during the Digital Learning Week 2024, and particularly because we are in the world of generative AI, and students are using these tools, but you need to learn how to do it safely. And these frameworks aim to equip learners and educators with the skills, knowledge, and ethical values needed to engage with AI responsibly and effectively. They emphasize a human-centered approach, addressing AI's ethical, social, and technological challenges while ensuring AI complements rather than replaces human roles in education. Beyond education, AI offers young scientists powerful tools to drive innovation, research, and social impact. UNESCO's Global Grant Scheme provides funding, capacity building, and mentorship to support youth-led initiatives that harness AI for social good. The Youth Media and Information Literacy Debates creates a platform that I invite you to use for young people to discuss AI opportunities and risks, shaping policies on media literacy, also on AI bias, and also on digital governance. The key to the future is to get AI right, because AI should augment, not replace, human potential. We know it's going to disrupt traditional jobs, but it also creates opportunities and is creating more jobs in research, entrepreneurship, scientific discovery, but we need to grab those opportunities. For AI to serve young people, young scientists must have a voice in shaping its future.
The message was very clear. AI for humanity. So that should be the way forward, especially in this present world of generative AI. And in fact, she used the term, today's students are digital natives. So in this changing world, what is the role of the engineering is what Emilia is going to talk about. And Emilia is an accomplished leader in digital transformation. She is an associate professor at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, University of Ljubljana, and a former Minister of Digital Transformation of Slovenia. With a career spanning academia, innovation, and public service, she has consistently driven impactful initiatives that bridge technology, policy, and sustainable development. In 2024, Emilia was selected as one of the 100 women in GovTech by Gov Insider, recognizing her contributions to the field of digital transformation and innovations. Emilia.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Nishat, for this nice introduction. I don't want to ruin something here. So it's really a pleasure to be with you today and to discuss one of my favorite topics, Industry 5.0 or digital transformation. We have moved from Industry 1.0 to Industry 4.0 through mechanization, electrification, automation, and digitization. But now we are here at Industry 5.0, and Industry 5.0, it's not just about efficiency. It is about values. It is about human values. and reintroduces the human back at the center. So this is also the reason why you're not going to watch slides, but you're going to watch me, the human in the center. This was just a small joke, but let's see how human can make Industry 4.0 more, like Gabriela was saying, like Rishamit was saying, more approachable, more kind to all of us. So in order to have this human, to augment the human, the digital transformation, we need locally relevant and globally responsible technologies. What is the way how we can develop such technologies? It is very important to focus on co-creation. We must not forget that technologies must be developed with and not for the communities. So we need to co-design the technologies together with educators, together with policy officers, together with frontline workers, with SMEs, and so on and so on. Because this is the only way how we can meet the needs of the communities that we are developing the technologies for. Another thing what is very important is to test before implementing these technologies in the areas and to make sure that these technologies are really inclusive, just like what Rishamit was showing us these examples, including the women in the agriculture and so on and so on. Back in Slovenia, I work at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, and together with my colleagues, we have a lot of different projects on rural development using digital technologies. And we found out that it is really important to include rurals, to include locals throughout the work, because a lot of times they didn't understand why they need these technologies in their areas, for example, in the rural villages. That's why we introduced a new methodology called local heroes. So these are the people that are coming from the rural areas who really understand what are the needs of these rural areas, and they're also able to explain to the other villagers why they need these technologies and how these technologies can help address their needs. Another thing what we can do and we must do is to develop modular and open solutions. So globally responsible technologies must adapt across economic and cultural contexts. When we are developing such technologies, it is really good that they're modular not only in technological aspect, but also in cultural aspect, also in economic aspect, and so on, because this is the only way how different communities can use what is already existing. They can tailor them to their needs, and they don't need to reinvent themselves. Another very important thing in engineering is that we need to follow global standards, just like global standards coming from ICO, from International Telecommunication Union, also UNESCO, Gabriela was mentioning the ethics in artificial intelligence, but we need then to local calibrate these standards, again, because we have different cultures, we have different needs, so it is really important that they fit across different regions. So why this is important, all these approaches I was mentioning, because the technologies we are designing, they shouldn't be high tech for the reach, but they should be scalable, flexible, and they need to be tools that empower communities worldwide, regardless of where they're used. So how early care researchers can help Industry 5.0 and to augment human-machine interfaces. Very important thing is to build bridges. So what early career researchers can do is they can easily translate theory into practice by developing different frameworks that are usable by many different organizations like schools, companies, then hospitals, and so on and so on. In Slovenia, we introduced a new project that was coming from Finland. It was called Demola project, which showed how much it is important to have interdisciplinary teams that are led by early career researchers that are including students and working either with companies or with some organizations coming from the public sector or with NGOs and so on and so on. And the early career researchers were really the bridge between what we were doing at the academia and then what was needed within the community. Another thing that early career researchers can do is to join interdisciplinary networks, because this is the only way how we can address the challenges holistically. So not only engineers, but just like we have here at the panel, we have people coming from different areas, and when we are speaking about artificial intelligence, it's not just the engineer's voice that should be heard, but we need to hear also the voice of the lawyers, of the sociologists, of psychologists, and so on and so on. And then another very important thing that early career researchers can and should do, and a lot of times they are not doing that, is to engage in policy and public dialogue. So yesterday I was at one of the research talks, and we were discussing a lot what the scientists can do to make sure that the policies are scientific friendly and so on and so on. If we're not there, if we don't speak up, then the policies cannot have our voices included. So early career researchers, a lot of times you will see that governments, at least some of the governments, are asking for public dialogue. For example, also in the European Union, the European Commission a lot of times is asking for public dialogue, but we think that it will make no impact. That's why we don't engage. This is not true. So we need to speak up. We need to say what are our views on that, and I'm sure that it will be also included. For example, when I was a minister, when we were preparing our national artificial intelligence strategy and also the Digital Slovenia 2030 strategy, we included a lot of different scientists, researchers, NGOs, and so on and so on. And they helped us build the AI strategy and also the Digital Slovenia strategy. So I would really like to address you all to be more active in this policy and public dialogue. So the last part, and Gabriela was speaking about that, we were all speaking about that, is about equitable access to artificial intelligence. But before I continue with the equitable access to artificial intelligence, I would like to stop first to connectivity. According to the International Telecommunication Union, there are 2.6 billion, not million, but billion people, which is around 32% of the world, that still lack internet access. And in low-income countries, only 27% are online. And even those that are connected face digital illiteracy and so on and so on. So when we're speaking about ethics, about biases and so on, and that we need to include data from everyone, don't forget that first people need to be connected online so that we can get the data, and that they will be able then to really engage in the artificial intelligence. So I see that Nishat is standing, and I will stop here. Before speaking about equitable access to artificial intelligence, don't forget the foundation: internet connectivity, digital literacy, other different rural gaps, also access to digital equipment. So just to conclude with, the first industrial revolution gave us the machines, and the fifth industrial revolutions must give us meaning. So for me, the real question isn't how to augment the human-machine industry, but how to ensure it delivers the most value for humanity. Thank you.
Watch me instead of the slides. That is the profound statement and the actual central core of Industry 5.0. You put the human values at the core of the AI. Wonderfully said. And what can early career researchers do about it? Build bridges, connect people, right? And as a policymaker herself, she has given a lot of inputs on that. And the next speaker who is going to talk about the ed tech, the education tech, is Suresh Bhagavatulla. He is a faculty member in entrepreneurship at IIM Bangalore. His research, focusing mainly on the Indian context, explores how social capital theory, effectuation, and entrepreneurial scripts help understand the function of informal industries, accelerators, and technology ventures. This work contributes to understanding entrepreneurship in developing economies. As a faculty member, he has trained women entrepreneurs, family businesses, and startups through programs like Women Startup Program, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women Program, and the Management Program for Entrepreneurship and Family Businesses, which he headed. Over to you, Dr. Suresh.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. So I should probably confess that I'm not an industry person, industry 5.0 person. I just started looking it up once I've been asked, why don't you speak? And my wife was asking, what do you know about 5.0 to talk about it? I said, I'll figure out. Right? So business school faculty are a little bit more doing it. But before I start, I asked ChatGPT a question to say that if we were to take 1st of Jan is when agriculture started to come about, right? That we moved away from being hunter-gatherers to more settled civilizations. So it's very interesting what it threw, saying that each day is about 40 years. And therefore, 1st of Jan is when humans started to become farming. April is when we had civilizations like Mesopotamia, Indus Valley civilization. September is when mathematics, writing, and early science started to develop. November is when printing technology started to evolve. 1st of December is Industrial Revolution. 30th December is when electricity, internal combustion engine, telegraph started to come. December 31st, 11 p.m. is when computers and internet started to come about. So smartphones is December 30th, 11 p.m. and 59 minutes and 50 seconds, right? So 10 seconds to 12 is when we are starting to see smartphones, right? So if you look back, we are at the little cusp. If you look at 1 year, we are at a very, very interesting point, right? So I'm super excited and super scared at the same time. What am I excited about, right? So as an educator, when I started teaching, I teach at a school called Indian Institute of Management. Y'all are at an institute called Indian Institute of Technology. For those of y'all who most of y'all may be aware, but just in case you are not, in order to get into schools like this, 2.5 million students write exams every year. And I don't know, 20, how many IITs are? 22 or 23? And the school that I work in, Indian Institute of Management, there are 20 such schools. 250,000 people to 300,000 write every year. We take 500 students. And ours is probably one, two in India. So if you're not in the top 500 of 30,000, 300,000 students every year, you don't get into my class, right? So when I started teaching, I was teaching to a class about 50 to 70, and that's my impact. And while it's very good that students whom I'm teaching are ultra smart, very good, but in a place like India, it's not going to cut. It just will not solve the human capital problem that we have. So when an opportunity came up for me to teach MOOC, massive open online course, I was quite excited and said, maybe this is an opportunity for me to experiment a bit and see, can I teach at a distance? It is so easy to talk in front of people. It's insanely hard to talk to a camera. And if film stars are being paid a lot of money, there's a reason. You can't emote in front of a camera, you can't think in front of a camera. It took a long time for me to figure out to go and stand in front of a camera and talk, right? So I had this online course called Do Your Venture. I'm an entrepreneurship scholar, and one of the things that I believe is that humans are inherently entrepreneurial. We didn't get to December 30th if humans have not been entrepreneurial. We came here because of entrepreneurship, the light, the air conditioning, the seats, right, the building. These are all entrepreneurs who took risks and made things happen. So for me, entrepreneurial education is something that has to be extremely primary in order to people to be entrepreneurial, not to be entrepreneurs, right? So I'm extremely excited about teaching more and more people about what are the entrepreneurial methods and how do you get people to be more entrepreneurial than where they are. So my first course was called Do Your Venture, where I started to talk to, it was called a Women Startup Program. How do you get women who have no idea about what to start, how do they start? So I had a 6-week online course where one of the things that I like about digital technologies is we should combine digital with physical. So the course was about how do you go talk to customers, how do you identify ideas, but it was something that they learned in front of screen, but they did a lot outside the classroom. So they had to go talk to customers, come up with hypotheses, test this hypothesis, and build their venture very iteratively. And I was surprised that about the first time that we offered, India is big, so don't be impressed with numbers. I had about, I thought about 1,500 people is what I wanted. I got 1,800 in 2 days, so we stopped. So from there, we trained about 250 people. We got them who submitted their ideas, and then 50 people got them to a classroom, and then we trained about 15 them to start run the ventures. Subsequently, a year later, we decided to bump up and get 100 people. So 10,000 people took the online course. About 2,000 of them submitted ideas, and then 200 of them, we supported them. These were all remote, and about 50 of them came to campus for a little while, and they went back. The interesting thing was, this was the first time startup conversations were not happening in Bangalore, which is called the Silicon Valley of India, but from women from Himalayas, women from Bihar. If you look at India, these are from slightly remote areas, right? So I was super excited that technology can actually bridge remoteness, right? Co-location of learning is no longer limitation, that you don't have to be together in the same room to educate people, and you have technology to play and train people at a distance. So currently I'm running an online undergraduate program, the first undergraduate program that IIM has. IIM Bangalore, that's where I am from. We only have had master's students, we haven't had bachelor students. So right now we are coming up with, we have a course called Digital Business and Entrepreneurship, because we believe that the future is going to be digital in terms of, it's unlikely that the digital footprint is not going to fall wherever you are. I go to remote areas in Andhra, and there are people paying UPI. I started my whole career training women in remote locations where I had to go physically, and during COVID, I was mentoring them over Google. So we had a Google Meet, and they were signing in from this remote village, and I was in Bangalore. I was able to tell them how to run the ventures, give them ideas, right? So mentoring was done at a distance. So this is a program where we have 1,000 students in year one. It's about third semester. We had 2 terms that we had just had. We have about 1,014 students from 360 different PIN codes. That was the exciting part, that year one, term one, we had about 1,000 students with 300 different PIN codes. We did an offline event where we invited some of them, whoever wants to come to campus. There was a girl who came to me and said that, look, I am from very remote West Bengal. So I'm from Calcutta, that's in the eastern part. And where I stay is about 400 kilometers away from Calcutta. So I am in some slightly more remote location. It's not really remote, but you could be in a tier 4, tier 5 town. But she was quite excited that, you know what, where would I have had access to faculty who are teaching in IIM to train me, talk to me, right? So that was the exciting part, because now I started to notice that students are doing so many different things on their own. So I tell students, if I can give you quality education, if you spend 10 to 12 hours every week online, the rest of the time is yours. You be creative. You can take startup jobs. You can work with family businesses. You could do whatever you want to in the time that you have, which has been freed up because we're giving you very high quality education if you're disciplined for about 12 hours a week. And that is where I'm super excited that the technology can really offer high quality education at a distance. You don't have to come to places like this. Well, technology is a slightly different animal. AR, VR is probably going to change that. But management education, where I am from, it can train a lot of small enterprises. It can train family businesses. It can train people to be more entrepreneurial and improve their livelihoods at a distance, right? And I see that being a great potential for us to create a better life. But here's the challenge, right? So the challenge, or maybe I should probably talk about the challenge in because I'm really super scared because we are going to create a divide of another kind. It was urban-rural. It was that was a divide that we have because most of the infrastructure is in the urban areas. Rural areas don't have that kind of technology. But access to AI and access to some of these technologies, as everybody mentioned, is going to be quite scary as well, right? So on that note, thank you very much for having me. Happy to converse on this topic.
To solve human capital problems, AI is the way to go, was his message. And of course, one can provide very high quality education to the remotest of areas through AI. And yes, he did start about the drawbacks of it, which I'm sure as the conversation flows, he will throw more light on it. I would like to quote the Google CEO, who has said in yesterday's paper about the Industry 5.0 and AI. He says that AI is not a replacement for people. Please see it as a relentless amplifier of human capability. And he also says he is not talking about a handover, but he's talking about a hand-in-hand future. So that's the way forward for AI. And you have heard our eminent panelists. I will take 6 questions in total. So let's begin now. The floor is open for the audience. Yes. Yeah, they will.
Thank you for the panelists for such a insightful session. So my question is more upon related to the accountability of this AI digital world. So as a policy researcher, my opinion, like there is no as such mechanism framework out there who can measure the accountability of this AI digital world. So what you think or your inputs on that, how we can measure this digital world? Because nowadays the more focus on accounting footprints, carbon footprints, efficiency of this AI digital cyberspace, but there is no talk about the indicators that how we can measure it. So I want inputs from you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Who would like to answer?
Thank you. So you have very rightly pointed out that we are talking about AI, but then who is accountable? For example, this if you're talking about autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars, there is an accident, we cannot, and if there is a mistake on the part of the car, we cannot put the car in the jail, right? So there has to be someone. So who is accountable? Is it that are those the developers, researchers who are working on it, or are those the companies, the leadership? So that's a very challenging question, and that's where I think the AI community is also trying to work. There are different frameworks, I'll say, which are being discussed and also getting adopted. For example, I know in EU, the AI Act, they list, like they have categorized all these based on the risk. like how some application, how risky that is. Like if it is something that threats the fundamental rights, like then it is like a big no-no. It is the highest risk possible. Or if it is something like a very minimal risk. So the accountability is as per the risk level that they define. Even if it is healthcare, it is in a high risk category, right? So there are different accountability on the deployers as well as the developer side. And more or less, I'll say that despite having different frameworks, or even if the regulations are there, what really works is like the voluntarily commitment. What really works is the awareness among the community that what is it that you are trying to solve with this problem, and how you should be solving this problem in the right and ethical way. It's the self-regulation, it's the voluntary commitments that work rather than more of the regulations, I'd say.
Do you think that we need a global framework for the indicators as well?
Yes, you're absolutely right. We do need global framework, but as all of us have been highlighting, those should also be locally and culturally relevant. Because it's not the one size fits all theory. Something that works for one country cannot really work for another country, right? Like even when we are talking about India, we are saying that we need access to internet, we need access to all these things. Actually, India has pretty good access to internet. 95% of our villages are actually connected to internet. We had approximately 900 million subscribers till last year. I'm sure it must have increased by now. So in terms of digital literacy, in terms of accessibility, so we need to think how all those indicators are relevant locally as well, while making more sense in the global context.
Thank you so much.
I guess maybe we'll take some more questions, otherwise we'll not.
We have the next question.
Hi, Vanessa McBride from the International Science Council. I think a few speakers spoke about modularizing applications or making them available in different languages. But I wanted to speak about or ask a question about the converse process, because as you're using some of these applications, how is your personal data or your company data being looked after by the providers of such applications? And I wanted to ask about two aspects. One is about data sovereignty, who owns the data and looks after it in the long run. But the second is also who stands to benefit from the data.
Yeah, Emilia. You have to switch on.
Closer? Okay. Thank you so much. It's excellent point. I will share an anecdote with you. When I was a minister and when ChatGPT became very approachable, and then many of my colleagues at the ministry were using ChatGPT. And they were, instead of providing the reports, they were putting different documents in ChatGPT, and then, and this was a major concern. And when the Ministry of Finance asked us to buy the licenses for ChatGPT so that they can use it for different reports, we said, oh, this is an alert, high risk, like the AI Act said. I think this is when we're speaking about literacy, digital literacy. So when you're using systems, tools like ChatGPT or whatever, I don't want to mention just one of them, you need to be aware that you're sharing the data and where this data goes. So nowadays, many of the companies, especially the larger ones, governments, they provide their own systems, they have their own data there. We need to be aware, so not every data is sensible, but there is sensible data. And this is also the same where you're keeping your most sensible data. In Slovenia, for example, our citizen data is kept locally. We are not sharing it on some servers on Amazon or private. Again, don't want to mention just one of the companies. But this is connected to the digital literacy when we're speaking about sovereignty of data, of technologies, and so on and so on. So who owns the data? The problem nowadays is most that the tech giants. So we are giving them a lot of power. And we need to be aware of that. So the AI Act is not only about characterizing in different classifications like high risk, low risk, and so on, but it's also about the transparency of algorithms of data. Are there any international? There are. We have international organizations. So we have OECD, we have UNESCO, but the problem is they're not legally binding. So this is the major issue. And what I don't have an answer to your question because there is no answer to the question, but it is very important that we speak about that and that we are aware that using AI, we're just feeding the algorithms that somebody is getting richer and richer and richer every day. And these are the people, the organizations that are then, it's not the politicians who rule the world, but we are making these companies ruling the world because we're giving them our data.
So we need to be aware of it. That's the point she's trying to convey.
Something to it. There are, like, in the sense of research and also the deployment, different architectures, for example, federated learning, where the whole focus is that users own the data. You don't send your data out there, but personally, the part of the model or the model, it is trained locally and the weights are sent to the central server. So the user never shares the data. So there are a lot of things which are going on. There are architectures that exist to ensure that the ownership resides with the users, with the creators of the data itself, and not the big corporates and all. And it is being used actively.
But I think you have raised a very interesting point, because not all countries will have fundamental models of their own. And it is now going to be a big fight in terms of who owns that fundamental model and how is it being trained upon, and how quickly will it start to be at least accurate or good. So this is again power law at play. The rich get richer. So those AI algorithms that have now a huge history of usage are going to be doing well. So this is what I'm really scared about in terms of how is it going to be used against, because you could always have people who will going to be use it for their individual purposes. And I don't think the model is going to be the scary part. It is how the humans are going to use these models, I think, is a more scarier part. And looking at humanity and human history, I really have very dim hope in terms of how things are going to pan out. But I'm like quite scared on that part completely.
We have a question.
Hi, Claire Civita from the UK Way. I have a question for Amelia. Coming from a European point of view, we do love regulation. As a customer or as a user, I go to the supermarket. If I buy wine, it tells me it's not good for my health. Shouldn't drink it when I'm pregnant. Ditto cigarettes, cause cancer. Even sweets. We're increasingly in that marketplace being told what is good and what's not good for us. And I wondered, coming back to this point about digital literacy, whether there was a way, if we go onto an internet, we automatically get a message about cookies, whether we could remind people about how their data is being used in very simple 5-6 words, whether that would be possible to introduce to remind people free services are kind of free rather than totally free. Is that something that's foreseeable, or is that too complicated to implement across the board?
I just have one thing before I answer. Humans are absolutely reckless when it comes to doing a lot of things. They could be warnings. You can say nobody heeds warnings. If you look around in India, nobody wears helmets. Not because there isn't any regulation or that they aren't being told. It's just that we don't do it. In certain nations, probably they do it. In certain nations, again, a cultural thing. But at least for those who would like to listen to, or those who are unaware, we could create this awareness that yes, the fact that you're excited about this entity which is giving you a lot of intelligent answers is actually getting more intelligent because of the fact that you're asking these very clever questions, right? So for those who would like to listen, I guess it's a very good warning to be given, and that could probably be not hidden, but be made more evident, as you said, like when you're buying cigarettes, when you're buying alcohol, these warnings are all there for those who listen, right? So I think humans don't listen until you go to that edge of destruction. That's my personal view, but that could be age talking as well. So
I would disagree, because if it says that you should not drink alcohol before 18, or you cannot sell alcohol after 9 p.m., you usually respect that. Otherwise, you're punished. At least in our country, it's like that. So I am pro-regulation. When we had the debate about AI Act in Europe, there was a lot of noise that what we are doing is we're doing chaos. But in my personal opinion, regulation is not about chaos, it's about rules of act. I think it is because the digital literacy is not on such a high level. Something like that will be very much useful, just like you said, when we're using medication and so on and so on. Just that the people understand what is happening with their data, what is happening when they're using systems like that, or even in education. It is very dangerous. So I didn't want to share so many pictures, but I don't know if you have tried with some of the AI systems you're using. Ask them to sketch you based on the conversations you're having with them. I did that exercise, and I was a young female with glasses because I don't know, there is a lot of bias inside. So I think with things like that, we are going to increase the literacy. But what we all need to do, and I don't see that so often, is we need to train the trainers. So if we train the teachers that are educating the people, if they we don't need special subjects on that, but that they're aware of what is happening and they're teaching our children, then at a later point, absolutely, we do not need to regulate and instruct them. But now at this point, because artificial intelligence is not new, it's very old. It came in the 60s. What's changed now is generative AI. And because of generative AI, it is very approachable. We all have access to it and we're all using it. And it's just like something new came on the market and now we're using it and we don't know what are the dangers. So being on the safe side, I would say I would definitely go for that. But you know what happens then? Again, a lot of screaming. Because you're regulating or because you're instructing, people are afraid to use. So the big techs are then saying that you are striving innovation. So I would definitely go with this one. And I was very positive with the AI Act, but what concerns me now is that the European Commission at this point is considering pausing the implementation of AI Act just to make sure that we're not striving innovation. So I don't know.
Yeah, Joseph?
Thanks. It's a great panel, very, very interesting talks to now. I have a question on the impact in the society, because you mentioned, for example, that now we can personalize the AI culturally or morally. And from one side, it was mentioned this as inclusive, which is true. But on the other side, what are the risks of this being an echo chamber of the current rules in a certain place? Because morality, ethics are changing as well. So if we think about my country 100 years ago or 200 years ago, 2,000 years ago, are different. So how can we use AI maybe to escape our current rules to some extent, to see something else, and to see if we have to innovate and change our tradition, our current societal rules, and how much we can use it actually to safeguard them.
Yeah, I think that's Rishamjit. Diversity.
Sure. So, yeah, you're right. We are evolving, and so should the AI that we are developing and we are working with. It should also evolve. Now, what we consider to be ethical or moral, it may not be the same couple of years down the line, right? So I believe the more data will come in and the AI will evolve. But if I talk about asking AI how our future will look like or give me a different perspective, I'm not sure if I want to do that. I want to,
have a surprise element.
Not just surprise element. I would just like humanity to control our own future, not the AI systems. So yeah, I think that's where I will stop and not say more, if anybody.
Yeah, I think that's the last question.
Mohammed Masaho here. So you talk a lot about culturally aware AI. Now, culturally aware AI needs to observe, which effectively means tracking, right? it affected an autonomous car trained in Germany will probably not do very well in India and vice versa. And you have cultures that are much more open about sharing data. Talking about health, for example, here, health records in Iceland are very open. Americans, on the other side, are very obsessed with their health records being very close. So how do you overcome these cultural barriers to sharing the data that you actually need in order to make culturally aware AI later on?
It's a big challenge because when we talk about culturally aware data, then it needs to come from diverse communities, and getting access to such kind of data, to convincing them to be on board to provide the data, it is a challenge. But for that, we need to work in a larger ecosystem, which is not just consist of researchers collecting data, but it has to be companies, startups, it has to be NGOs, it has to be communities working together to create such data so that they are also part of it and they are not left out. At one hand, we are talking about, as you are saying, privacy. We are very concerned that we do not want to put our data out there. But at the same time, if our data is not there, it means we are also excluded, right? And we don't want to see that exclusion. So it's a trade-off, it's a choice as well. Like, many people choose not to be part of it, not to be represented. They choose not to be on internet, and that is perfectly okay. So it should be a choice, not something that is being done should be done forcefully. And I agree with you, we need to monitor, and sometimes that monitoring in itself creates a lot of stress. For example, if I talk about let's say manufacturing kind of a setting, and you are monitoring a worker all the time to evaluate the performance, or even to see, what kind of factors influences performance or whatever. So that's going to create stress, right? You don't want to be watched all the time. So those are definitely genuine concerns, and we need to be cognizant of that.
I can very short add, it's transparency. You need to know what is happening with your data, where the data goes. When we were introducing the EID in Slovenia, and it's also used as health ID. People thought that everybody could see their data, but when we showed them that using the system you can see everybody that had access to your own data, then people got trust in the EID. So once you have transparency, you get the trust, and then there is no problem. But if you don't know what is happening with your data, then you may have some concerns of what is happening. So the key, in my opinion, is transparency. What is happening with the data? Where are the models? They should be open, and this is also what the AI Act was addressing.
So we have had several questions, and along with their remarks. If there is one last question, I'll just take that. Okay, she raised the hand first, sorry. And after that, I would request the panelists to give their very short concluding remarks, just 2 minutes, so that, that will be the takeaway or the take-home message of this panel. So that will be the last question. Yeah.
Hi, thanks. This should be a very quick question, but Suresh, I was really impressed with the program that you're leading. I think it's amazing. We have something similar in the UK, but we've scaled it across several universities, and I wondered, it sounds like there's so much demand for your course. Do you think there might be an opportunity to collaborate with other universities across India to make sure that, this opportunity is more widely available to people and more accessible?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think this is where I feel, so the program that we are running, the online course, the digital business and entrepreneurship, we copied IIT Madras, which is another institute. So they were the ones who started first, and we thought if they did, we should do it. So we worked with them, and we learned a lot. It took a long time for us. It's an evolving, shape-shifting entity as we speak, but insanely powerful in terms of getting people to learn at a distance. There are other institutes who are just about started to be interested in this online education. And this is where I think AI is going to play a huge role in terms of being a tutor, because the advantage of being co-located is that there is a dialogue and the learning proceeds very rapidly. But in an asynchronous mode, when you're in front of a machine where you're only consuming, then the aspect of learning together kind of goes down. And this is where the AI models can start to work in terms of if there is a question, because a lot of these questions are quite repetitive, but the students ask similar sets of questions all the time. It's just that they all ask them at different points of time. So machines and intelligent machines can really play a 24-hour tutoring support in order to get people educated at a distance rapidly, almost giving them the same advantages of being co-located here. So short answer, definitely yes to the fact that it has to be a collaborative affair to create larger impact.
Thank you so much. This is very difficult because we said already a lot. Okay, so a lot of times we hear that artificial intelligence will take people's jobs and we should be afraid of it and so on and so on. I disagree with that, but I believe that artificial intelligence will not take our jobs, but the people who know how to use artificial intelligence will. So my message for the world, because you're coming from all over the world, the key is in education. And it's not education like just formal education, but lifelong learning, that if we want to keep progress with what is happening, not only on technological level, but on every level, we need to be sure that we continue educating ourselves and make sure that the people around us too.
I think she has already summarized it very well. Just a few things if I would like to say. While I agree, people are scared that AI brings a lot of risk, and there is no doubt about it, a lot of misinformation, things like deep fakes, and do also damage. But I am very positive, very optimistic about the benefits which AI will bring and the communities, the way it will change the communities. I think the bigger risk right now for us is the risk of being left out from the potential benefits of AI, right? While the concerns about personal data security, everything is valid, but at least the developing countries, we need to be part of this, and for that we need, of course, digital literacy. We don't need to be left out. We need resources. We need resources where there is a divide between the resources which are available with the developed and the developing countries. So somewhere we need to work together to ensure that the resources like compute power, everything, it is available and accessible to all, so that we can all be part of this. Thank you.
So short answer to, or short thought is that I don't think we can live without understanding how AI works, or how you can live without interacting with AI. I tell a lot of these young doctoral students that, look, I have 8.5 years before I retire, and I don't think AI is going to take my job. And if it takes my job, I'm okay, because I'm anyway sick of teaching MBA students. But they who have like 30, 35 years of career, they cannot not know how to leverage technology. And technology, they will have to learn how to use it, how to play. And this is where I feel some cultures which have an ability to question will learn faster how to use AI, because it's all about prompt engineering. And certain cultures which don't understand how to ask questions are going to be left out, because here is a huge entity and the answers you get depend on the questions you ask. And if you don't train students, if you don't train people how to ask questions, we are not going to get those answers. So it's very important for all of us to start to poke around to understand how to question, how to ask, how to play with AI, because the thing is here to stay. Whether it's going to be super interesting, super destructive, all I can say is that the next 30 years are going to be super interesting. We can create a wonderful utopia for us, but it would also put us back multiple years, right? So we're at this junction, and you all are the ones who should lead us into the part where it is a little bit more utopic than going back to dystopian worlds that movies and all show about what AI can do, right? So thanks a lot then.
So the 3 takeaways from the 3 eminent panelists. Don't be afraid of AI, but be afraid of the people who are using AI. And the only way you can overcome it is to educate yourself. The second takeaway is the benefits definitely overweigh the concerns. We do have concerns, but the benefits overweigh them. So don't stay away from AI. And the third one is train the future generation. We all have our students who work with us. Train them how to ask questions. So I think those are the three takeaways from the eminent panelists we have here on the Industry 5.0. And I hope you did, not only these three major takeaways, there were a lot of other points which we discussed, benefited from this session. Thank you all. And I think as moderator, I have even finished 15 minutes before the tea break. So go and enjoy a longer coffee session. Thank you. And please, this time, please do visit the stalls which are put up there. I think you will really benefit from visiting those stalls as well. So please do visit that, right? Ah, yes. Okay. Yes. Photo shoot time.
Hello? No. Yes, now on. Okay. I just want to announce that the next panel will start on time at 11. So please come back and be seated by 11 to hear the panelists on health and nutrition for global wellness.
Like you talked about.
Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. My fault. I switched it off so that we should not get disturbed by any other things. Refresh it. Okay.
from there, will you take it till